thank you so much for joining us. I'm Vanessa. I work at Middlesex University. I'm the Student Wellbeing Coordinator, and this session is all about mental fitness through life, and we'll be starting off with a kind of a what is stress introduction. And like Jake said, we work really closely with an app called Fika, and Lauren is the head of training at Fika, so she'll do our intro in a mo. And hopefully through our sessions today, you'll be able to get a really rounded idea of the way we approach wellbeing and mental health and mental fitness at Middlesex, and of course all of the benefits that you can get from the Fika app.
Cool, thanks Vanessa. So yeah, as Vanessa mentioned, I'm Lauren from Fika, and yeah, we've been working with Middlesex now for maybe nearly 2 years, so we're well embedded into the kind of mental fitness strategy and wellbeing stuff, and we want to talk to you about stress, but we want to talk to you through this kind of mental fitness lens, and it's often a phrase that people haven't necessarily come across. And so I just want to give you a bit of an intro into what at Fika we define as mental fitness, as opposed to mental health help or anything along those lines. And the gist of it is it's through a slightly more positive, proactive lens, which is what we want to talk to you about today. So a lot of the themes that you'll hear running throughout our presentation really relate to sport and physical fitness. And one of the reasons for this is we know quite a lot about physical health and physical fitness. And ever since we're really small, we hear about, you know, make sure you have your 5 a day and do this many steps and get a good night's sleep. And we know all these things are really, really good for our physical health and, you know, our mental health as well, really. We don't always do them, maybe, you know, we don't always hit our step count, we don't always drink enough water, but at least we know, we've got the kind of knowledge. When it comes to what we do for our mental health, we're not really ever taught that. It's quite a big gap in our education, that we don't really have that ingrained in us in the same way that we do with our physical fitness. So our vision at Fika is a world where confidence is the new six-pack, because everyone's so proud of their physical fitness. If you work on your physical fitness, you like to tell people, you like to share things with them. You know, you might tell someone if you've hit a personal best or if you've done something new. We don't really do the same for, oh, you know, I've just worked on my confidence and now I feel great. We almost feel a bit embarrassed to share that. So the vision here is that, you know, be proud of your mental health, because everybody has mental health. Mental health in itself is not something that means ill health or negative. Everybody has mental health the same way that everybody has physical health. So this is what we're kind of aiming for. We want to bring mental health and mental fitness to meet physical health and physical fitness in terms of our knowledge and how we feel about it and how we talk about it, and it should be far more positive than what it is at the moment. So we at Fika look at mental muscles. So these are the 7 mental muscles or kind of mental fitness skills that we look at. So in the same way that you work out different physical muscles, and you know, some we all prefer some than others. I personally used to hate going to the gym and doing arms. That was like the worst thing for me. I know for most people it's leg day, but my legs are okay. My arms not so much, and I used to dread it. But this is the same with these. You know, you probably look at those and think, oh, I'm quite good at this, but like, oh, I'm not so good at that. And my equivalent of arms day at the gym is definitely like working on focus, because I'm definitely a person that tries to do everything at once, and it doesn't really work. We can't really multitask. So everybody is at different starting points, but the good news is that you're not born with these things. They can develop, and you can learn how to be more motivated. You can learn how to manage stress better. You can learn how to be more positive. This is the one that I think there's often a bit of a myth around, that someone says, oh, you know, I'm really positive, or I'm just not a very positive person. You're not born as a baby, positive or not. You learn how to be optimistic through different techniques. So these are the kind of 7 mental muscles that we kind of look to help people train. And at Fika we work with loads of different age groups. So we've obviously done a lot of work with Middlesex within higher education, but we work with colleges as well now. Because actually, as I said, this is a gap in our education. The earlier that you can start thinking about this stuff, the better it will help you. And this isn't just about helping you cope, it's about helping you like really make the most of opportunities and be the best version of yourself. And that's what mental health should be about. It should be about celebration and doing well. And again, that's the kind of angle that we want to come from talking to you today. So just a final point on this is I kind of said about, you know, being our best selves, then about coping. And a really key important time to look at mental fitness and develop these areas is if you're going through a transition. And I don't know about everyone else, but it feels like there's been a transition a month for the past year. It's a year now, isn't it? So it just helps that, you know, if you really feel your best when you're going into a transition, and a transition could be something big, it might be starting university or starting a new job, or it might just be simply kind of going into the next year of study that you're in, or I don't know, changing one, doing a new subject or starting a new hobby. Transitions don't always have to be huge. But actually, if you're kind of working on your mental fitness at that point, you'll make the most of that opportunity and get the best out of it. If you don't do anything, then you might find that actually you really struggle to deal with that transition and to kind of cope with it. So this is always important, but it's particularly important at a point where you're going through a transition. Vanessa, I'll hand over to you.
Lovely, thank you for that, Lauren. So hopefully that gave you a really good insight into our approach, and obviously the approach that Fika take. And this aligns really well with what we try and do as a university, as an institution, which is supporting our students to stay well and to be well, because then, as Lauren said, by the time you know, particular challenges or transition periods come along, you're then in your kind of, you've got all the skills that you need, and you're in the sort of best position to manage that kind of transition period. So what we're going to do now is a little bit of a myth-busting exercise. So we'll do a bit of a fact or fiction challenge. Don't worry if you're somebody that doesn't like quizzes and challenges. This one is completely anonymous, so please don't worry about kind of putting in the wrong answer or anything like that. No one else will be able to see your results. But what we'll ask you to do is go to www.menti.com. So you can just type that in on your phone. If you're on a laptop, you can just open a new tab, or on your iPad or wherever you're at. And what I will do is I will take over screen sharing, and once you've headed over there, you should be able to see this screen. Lauren, are you able to see that? Oh, you're on mute, Lauren.
Sorry, there's a rookie error there. Yeah, it's on the screen now.
Perfect. So once you go to that webpage, so www.menti.com, it'll ask you for a code, and you just need to put in this code here at the top. So 87549456, and then you'll see a few people are starting to join with all sorts of weird and wonderful, I don't even know what to call them, symbols.
Avatars, maybe. You don't get to choose these, you just get assigned, like, you are a banana. That's what
you are a crab, you are a watermelon. So this is what we said about anonymity, which is great. So please don't worry about you know, anyone knowing it's you. Obviously we don't know it's you if you're a top hat. We'll just wait for a few more people to find their way over here. If you're having any problems, you can just pop it in the Q&A. We've got Gabriel and a few other colleagues helping us out to answer those questions. So I'll give you one more mo just to find your way over. And oh, there's a burger, there's a rabbit, lovely. Right, so we're going to do 3 questions. So the faster you can answer a question, oh, and there's some kind of lion, which is great. The faster you can answer a question, the more points you get. So it's in the speed, and it's also in the accuracy. So it will be a bit of a true, false kind of test. So I will move on to the first question here. So stress is good for you. And then you should look at your phone or the screen, and you'll see some responses: true, false, or trick question. Stress is good for you. So time is up. Okay, so we had a few people say true, same amount of people said false, and then a few of you said trick question, which was actually the right answer here. So this is great. This is why we're putting this session on today, to try and kind of myth bust some of this stuff. So we were maybe a little bit mean starting with this question, but stress is good and bad for you, depending on how much stress you've got going on, the kinds of situation you're in, and sort of how you're able to manage that stress. So bit of a trick question there. So well done to those of you that got that right. We'll take a little look at the leaderboard now and see which avatar is in the lead. So we've got Tiger Baby at the top there. Android, clever, I see what you did there. Bill, there's Lauren, and a few other people there. Banana, I guess, that's good there. So next question, same thing again, true, false, or maybe something else. And also again, answer faster to get more points. So stress is the same for everyone. True or false? Stress is the same for everyone. So 3 seconds to go. Time is up. False. Wow. Okay, well done.
Guys.
That's really well done. Everybody has got that right. Well done. So now it will just be a case of seeing who was fastest for that one. Ooh. Tiger Baby is just in the lead there still. Bill is quickly coming up in second. So yes, you're exactly right. Stress is not the same for everybody. And we'll see this as we run through the session today. There are some basic physiological things that happen to all of us and are common between all of us, but actually how we interpret stress is quite different, and how we manage stress is going to be very kind of individualized as well. So it's all about finding techniques that work for you. So the final question here, and the last chance to try and knock that Tiger Baby out of the top position there.
I'm worried that we should have thought of a tiebreaker. Now everyone's doing so well.
So if you exercise and eat well, you won't feel stressed. True or false? If you exercise and eat well, you won't feel stressed. Very important self-care activities there, eating well and exercising often. Oh, interesting. So 9 of you got that right. Well done to those of you that did. We were a little bit mean again with this question. So those of you that put true, you're kind of halfway there, because, you know, exercising regularly, eating well, very, very common stress management techniques, and really good ways to try and prevent stress. But it's not a fail-safe. So if that's all that you do to manage your stress, you're likely to still feel a bit of stress at times. So don't be too hard on yourself if you got that one wrong. So here is our final leaderboard. And oh,
it's so suspenseful, isn't it, while it works out?
I know. Oh, there you go.
Well done.
Well done. Congratulations. You get
the crown.
Everything happening, which is very nice. So well done, everybody. That was just a little activity. So I will give the screen sharing rights back to Lauren.
I've just lost my presentation. Where was it gone? There we go. Sorry, guys. Not too much open.
No,
okay,
so fantastic. Thank you. So, so that was a little kind of introduction to get you thinking about what stress is, what it isn't, possible ways that we can think about managing stress. And one of those questions you'd have noticed was to get you thinking about typical kind of stress responses in the body, and what's similar for all of us, and maybe what's a little bit different. So when we feel stressed, a few things happen in our body, and these are evolutionarily developed traits to support us. So you'll notice that when you start to feel a bit stressed, your heart rate starts going through the roof, so your heart starts pumping really quickly, your breathing increases, your lungs are dilating, and you stop feeling hungry, because actually your body is thinking there's no use in me focusing on food right now. What I need to be focusing on is running away from that scary thing, or fighting that scary thing, right? And this is called the fight or flight response. Your body also releases some stress hormones that help that whole physiological process. So it's not something to be worried about when you start to feel those kinds of things. It's really normal, and actually it's your body helping you out, right? But the trouble is, these days, the threats are less around running away from something like a mountain lion or fighting a mountain lion, and they're more around sitting in front of a laptop, doing your work, maybe sending some emails. Maybe it's something to do with a relationship that's making you feel stressed out. So you might be sitting there on your phone, looking at two blue ticks on WhatsApp, wondering what's happening, or maybe it's stuff that's going on in the world right now that's causing you some stress. I know Jake very rightly pointed that out in the intro. And this is a bit of a problem, right? Because if your body has set you up to be either running away from this danger or attacking this danger, and actually then what ends up happening is that you're sat in front of a laptop or you're just sat at your phone, you end up with all these kinds of feelings and this kind of body that's prepared to be running, and actually all you're doing is sat there feeling really, really stressed out. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. This is normal. But if that's happening again and again and again, it's really important to have some stress management techniques in place, which we're going to go through today. And also just a bit of an awareness about what's causing that stress and how you can manage it. So this is where we kind of want to link it back to sports. So obviously in the first slide, Lauren talked a bit about sports and mental fitness and how we can work on our mental fitness and how that supports our physical fitness and vice versa. So what we want you to be thinking a little bit about is in what ways you think a stress response could be helpful in life as well as in sports. So we'll ask you to pop some ideas in the Q&A there at the bottom. And while we do that, I'll just run you through this graph that we have here. So when we think about a stress response, we often tend to think quite negative things, right? Because it comes often with feeling a little bit uneasy and a bit anxious, and often with quite challenging transition situations that Lauren talked about at the beginning. We can kind of get in this mindset of thinking, well, stress is bad, right? But actually, when we think about sports, if our body is feeling stressed and it's prepping us to either flee a dangerous event or to fight something dangerous, that can come in pretty handy with sports and sports performance, right? And that's what this graph here at the bottom is showing. So on the x-axis, so the horizontal line at the bottom, that's arousal, so stress level. And on the y-axis, on the left there, that's performance. And what this is showing is that actually a little bit of stress is really, really helpful for performance. It gets you kind of ready, your body is kind of prepared, you're sort of on alert and you're ready to roll. But actually with too much stress, that can kind of get in the way and it actually hampers your performance. And so when we think about stress and sports, we can see that obvious relationship. But what about with something like exams and with revision and with schoolwork and thinking about next steps in your life? Maybe there's a relationship there that you could pop some thoughts about in the Q&A.
I think, Vanessa, there's a couple of comments. I can't see them because I'm sharing my screen, but maybe you can see them.
Here we go. Yes, so somebody says, yeah, it helps to get things done, which is exactly right. And somebody else has said the inverted U hypothesis. Well done, whoever that is. I wonder if you're going on to study psychology. So yeah, you're exactly right. So this kind of stress response is super helpful for us to get things done. So if you're a bit of a procrastinator, and like Laura mentioned at the beginning, focus is one of our 7 mental fitness skills. A little bit of stress can be really helpful to get us focused and get us motivated for an upcoming exam. Whereas if you're just kind of cruising along, you're not really worried about it, and you're not feeling at all stressed or anxious about it, actually it's likely that your performance is not going to be as optimal as it could be if you had a little bit of stress as well.
I think something important here as well is we sometimes think about the opposite of stress as relaxation, which it can be, but another opposite of stress is actually boredom. So if you're like kind of right down the bottom there and your arousal is like non-existent, you just don't really care about it, you're not going to do anything about it. So the stress is also a sign that you realize that you do care about something and you do want to do well in it, and that can really help you navigate other things as well, because if you're doing something that you don't have to do and you're not doing it, then maybe it's not the right thing to do because it's not getting you going in any way. And I'm sure there's loads of things that we have to do that fall into that category, but if you've got a choice over it and it's not making you feel anything, it's probably not quite the right thing for you. So just a bit of a summary on this side here. So kind of what stress is, as Vanessa explained there, is a natural biological process. But it's unhelpful in extremes. So whether it's extreme levels of stress, or as Vanessa said, an extreme length of time, kind of chronic stress is what we would call it, which is where you're stressed for a really long time. That's not helpful at all. But what it isn't is it's not abnormal. Every single person gets stressed at some point, and it's not all bad as well. So just moving on
as well, that comes back to what you were saying at the beginning there, Lauren, about oh, there's a cat saying hello. About being able to work on our skills of mental fitness, and stress management, of course, is one of them. No worries. So this is something that is really important for us to think about, right? Because we can often get into this mindset that stress is bad, it's no good for us. And actually, like we've seen, we've started to kind of explore, stress can be really helpful for performance, whether that's sports related, whether it's coming up to your exams, or whether it's something else. And that can tell us a lot about where our passions lie and where our focus lies. So on this side, we're just going to have a bit of a think about what situations make us feel stressed and what we maybe notice in our bodies. So I will ask Lauren this question. And in the meantime, if anybody wants to pop in any thoughts in the Q&A, I can see Gabriel is starting to type some answers as well, which is fab. And we'll also come to you, Gabriel, and Mo, and just ask in what kind of situations do you tend to feel stressed? But Lauren, over to you on this one.
Thank you. Sorry, if I hadn't fed my cat then, he would not have left us alone. So I just had to do a quick escape for his tea time. So yeah, there's a couple of things for me. I think that like relationship situations cause me a lot of stress, because I think I'm quite extroverted and get a lot of energy, and a lot of the good things I feel are because of the people around me. Therefore, a lot of the bad things I feel also come from, the stress and anxiety that you've let someone down, or if you've had an argument with somebody and you can't quite figure out how to fix it, like that definitely causes me stress. And the other thing is just situations where there's too much going on can cause me a lot of stress, which conflicts a bit with my personality, I guess, because I love variety, but having too many plates makes me feel really stressed. Like that's a good example, like Marley coming in the room while I'm trying to run the session. I went into immediate panic for a second, and then just remember that I do know how to deal with it, so it's fine. But yeah, in terms of feelings, I think it's different for different situations. Like kind of relationship stress, I get quite a sick feeling and that sort of tightness in my tummy. Any other kind of stress, I think it's a bit more like when we talked about the breathing. So if I've got too much going on, I start to feel panicky rather than the sort of anxious. So I think that kind of highlights the different stress. There's different stress as well. Stress doesn't always feel the same.
That kind of plays into some of our trick questions we had in our
yeah.
It is such an individual response. So although physiologically, a few set things happen, and that is common across all of us, the kinds of situations that set us off and make us feel stressed, and the kinds of sort of feelings and thoughts that we have about that are going to be different depending on who we are, right? And somebody has popped in the Q&A that they tend to feel stressed if they're late for something or they're meeting somebody, and somebody else has popped sort of social sort of anxiety, and those sorts of situations can make us feel quite stressed. And again, the responses that you feel in those kinds of situations and things you notice in your body, and the sort of thoughts that tend to kind of roll after that will be quite different. So if it's a situation where you're kind of running late, it can be really easy to fall into that pattern of kind of having racing thoughts, just because you are in that situation where you're late, and you're thinking, I need to get there, I need to, and your thoughts just kind of, head off, and it can be quite challenging to bring that all back under control again. So in a situation like that, a mechanism like deep breathing, or taking just a mo to, just to really take a few breaths and calm your heart rate down, calm your breathing down, is going to be really helpful to break that chain of thoughts from
a bit of like rationalized thinking as well, isn't there? Because I totally second that. I hate being late. It sends me into a total panic. So I totally agree with whoever said that. But actually, sometimes you're going to think, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I'm a few minutes late here? And how many times have people been late for you and you haven't really even noticed? So I think, it's just a bit of thought rationalization, as you say, by slowing down. can be really useful. And my cat is back, so he's joining the session, everyone. Hopefully
Hooray,
that's okay. There's nothing I can do about him.
He's welcome. This
is about controlling your controllables, right? I can't control this. It's just going to happen. So,
okay, and we'll cover that a little bit later as well, won't we? So fab. Thank you to those of you who contributed to that one. So I think we can move on to the next slide, Lauren.
So we just, we've got about 5 minutes, and we just wanted to sum up, I suppose. And the whole point of the session was just a bit of an education around, well, what are we even talking about with stress? And we know you've got another couple of really great sessions coming up, which talk a little bit more about how you can help manage your stress and the things you might want to do. And then our last session as well will be doing the same thing. So just to kind of sum this up, I guess, so stress is normal. So if you're feeling stressed, don't think there's something wrong with you. Absolutely, everybody feels it for loads of different reasons. It's really helpful in small doses, so that kind of performance, kind of feeling inside you that helps you do well, it's helpful to have a bit of stress. It's physiological, it's something that your body is doing. And the things that Vanessa talked about, your body is alerting you to something. So in those kind of relationship situations, if you're feeling stressed, maybe a way to get around that is to be interested. Well, why am I feeling stressed? And kind of start to think about what's causing that. And it is something you can harness. You can absolutely use your stress to beat other people and to perform better. And it's something you can learn to manage, which we'll of course come on to in the next 3 sessions. So the next session, we've got a bit of a challenge which links into stress. So we're going to talk to you about some ways to manage stress. We're not just going to tell you about stress and then leave you to figure it out for yourself. We are going to give you some helpful insights. Yeah, exactly. But something that's causing loads of people loads of stress at the moment is like just sitting here for hours and hours and hours and not moving. And I've seen loads of things, and my watch is quite good for this. It tells me to get moving every hour, and then gives me a little cheer just for going to the kitchen for a chocolate biscuit because it thinks I'm moving my body. But you've got, a couple of hours here in this session, and what we want you to do every time you have a 5-minute break between speakers, we want you to, as quickly as you can, run and find something in your house that might help you with stress management. Could be anything, be as creative as you want to be, but hopefully you've all kind of got the idea of a scavenger hunt before. And we're not specifying particular items, it's just whatever you think it might be useful for your stress management. Go and find 3 different things, and then we'll ask you at the end of the session, at the beginning of the next session, which 3 things you managed to get. So just do one every 5 minutes, and it just helps you to get moving, which helps your stress as well.